Hi, folks. David Gammel here with McKinley Advisors with my colleague and fearless leader, Jay Younger. And we're talking the week after the CESSE CEO meeting was held in Baltimore, which is really a fantastic event. It's also one that's off the record. So we're just going to talk about some high level themes. We are not going to talk about names. So that's one of the values of that meeting for CEOs that attend and their partners is to be able to have really frank conversations about things, which is so valuable for them as leaders, for us as their strategic partners. And we will certainly honor that through this conversation. But we did think there was a number of really interesting themes that came out of the conference that we just wanted to highlight, as well as how great CESSE itself is doing. So, CESSE has gone through some transitions over the last several years and came through COVID like everyone else. And it just seems to have such a strong vibe now. There's a new cohort of leaders of scientific and engineering societies getting engaged. They tend to be a little earlier in their CEO careers, like on their first CEO gig or second. And there's just a great energy. I think they had like 20 or so new to CESSE CEOs attending, which is fantastic for that organization out of about 90 CEOs that attended. Jay, what was your take on the vibe there at the conference and just how CESSE is doing?
Just 100% agree with you, David. And I think it was actually last year that you and I, during one of the breaks, just kind of leaned into each other and said, when did we become the old guys?
I know.
And certainly share your enthusiasm for the new crew at CESSE. This meeting in particular has been such an important event for like a whole generation of association executives.
Yeah.
And that spirit of being together, trust, a safe place, that is all still there. And I think they had 92 CEOs, which is just tremendous. So it was. Well, I walked in the first morning and I thought, holy wow, this is a much larger scale event. I think that really carried through for the whole thing.
Yeah, it just had a great energy. And when I became a CEO of a scientific society in 2011, and that was way back in the before times. But I got so many calls from people who are active in CESS saying, "Hey, you have to be involved in this group. You have to go to the CEO meeting, to the annual meeting in the summer." And that was some of the best advice I got. I kind of came up through ASAE, and I've always gotten a tremendous amount of value from there. But that science and engineering context is real. There are some substantive differences from those organizations and other types of associations. And being able to have that really trusted community practice through CESS was just invaluable for me. So I'm glad to see they're doing well and so strong. So Jay, what were two or three kind of topics or themes that popped out at you as being really relevant that folks should be thinking about?
Yeah, so the first one I'll pick up on what you just offered, David, which I think is so true, which is the uniqueness of CESS and how it serves a sector that is going to be central to our success as a planet, as a society, as an economy. There are so many kind of existential opportunities and threats facing us right now. A theme at CESS for many years has been the power of collaboration. And I think there's just, there's a higher order impact that whether it's CESS or members of CESS, scientific and engineering organizations can have on the world if we really try and think about the collective, which is what one of the panelists encouraged us to do, which was, stop kind of thinking about it as a zero-sum game and what each organization can get out of, its work. And if we all kind of push in together in a real way, that is extremely exciting. And again, there's some complicating factors to that and figuring out business models and all the rest. But for me, it kind of goes back to the sense that there's really no unsolvable problem in this world, and the potential of the organizations that make up CESS is just so immense. And so again, dedicating a little time and energy and thought to what that could look like would be transformative. To get there, there is always a thread running through the CESSE CEO meeting around governance. This time was no different. Lots of very good stories and illustrations of how getting the right people on the bus, so to speak, can unlock the transformative power of the organization. And so encouraged about the moves that are taking place from a governance perspective and how that materializes in the ability to drive mission. And then the final thing that stuck with me, perhaps a little bit more pessimistically, one of the panelists shared that his perspective was that social media is the ruin of the world. Yeah. Be that as it may, what struck me was that our organizations are not yet ready to keep pace with the rapid and sometimes extraordinarily destructive attacks that come through social media and other communication. We're losing the communication battle for the hearts and minds of the members, often to misinformation, disinformation, or just someone's particular point of view. And so that's a little bit of a risk. Like, how do we reclaim that narrative to try and get people back on the kind of the side of understanding that the work that associations do is central to progress and positivity. So figuring out how to deal with that communications mix is a work in progress.
Yeah, it really just seemed like just such a mix of sense of opportunity and possibility mixed with some really serious challenges, and just the challenges to respect for expertise and its role in society, and a rejection of that in some cases, especially where it intersects with politics, is definitely a big challenge. And I think associations were just kind of whistling past it for a number of years, but it's getting pretty real. And
it's getting very real, and the stories from CESSE members that some of them are dealing with right now, it has a kind of the impact of shutting everything else down, and you have to deal with these things. What about you, David? What stood out for you?
A couple of things. The big one for me was the talk around business models, and especially policies coming out of the U.S. government around public access to scientific content. The results of research, the record of the results of research that's funded by the government, and just the OSTP Nelson memo, the structural changes that's likely to drive in publishing, and basically sort of the end of the subscription model, the rise of open access as being the dominant form, and just how that's driving a lot of consolidation and shrinking margins for organizations that publish. And I really think scientific societies are kind of collateral damage in that change. They were never the targets of this usually. And the drive for these changes, but it's definitely challenging their ability to fund their mission and how they develop the next generation of scientists. So I think there was real sense, I think, that I picked up of, yes, we need to really look at how our organization makes money, how we can make sure to have suitable surplus from other ventures to fund our mission-based activities, which are usually significant and very impactful, but don't have money tied to them. And it's a real puzzle. Scientists and engineers, if they're especially in an academic setting, will pay to typically publish and go to conferences. And for dues, outside of that, it's often a challenge to get money. So I think scientific societies are having to look at adjacent markets or more innovative things, which a lot of that was talked about at the conference. So I found that very heartening. Also, something I think I didn't hear a lot of at this meeting that I think is a real thing is that no one's coming to save scientific and engineering societies. They have to do it for themselves. There's not like a major stakeholder out there who really cares in a way that they're willing to stand behind them and ensure and advocate for them and make sure there's policies in place that are going to maintain that space for them in society, which is so critical. So I don't think that sounds negative. I don't think scientific and engineering societies are going away at all, but I do think we have to be our own advocates, and we have to push for our place in society and the value that we provide to our members, the academy broadly and society writ large, which is tremendous. So it's kind of a mixed bag for me there. I think it's a lot of attention to it. People are working on it, but we probably need to be stronger advocates for these organizations and the value that they provide. There was also a lot of talk about workforce, both the staff of the associations as well as their members. And this is covered broadly. It's really the same things we're hearing everywhere, but it's definitely, I think, hitting these organizations as far as what the return to office looks like, if at all. People are going in very different directions. Substantial large organizations are going totally virtual. Some are trying to come back. People are in between. Others are just kind of winging it as they go along, which I totally get. We've all been doing that through this crisis to a certain extent. So I don't think there's a variety of answers there. I don't think there's one right answer, right? It depends on the group. But then really supporting their members where, they've been stressed, and especially for those that have students and graduate students and postdocs as members, those folks haven't traveled for several years and they're really behind on their networking. So there's a keen sense of how can we help those folks really advance their careers, get plugged into the community, and make sure they're going to have jobs, make sure they're going to get hired, and make sure they're a part of the society going forward. So those were, some of the highlights for me coming out of it.
There was just a ton of great content, and again, open dialogue, and people really paying attention and engaging, and I can't wait for next year.
Absolutely. And I don't believe they've announced the location yet, but I think it's going to be fantastic. So encourage anyone watching this. If you're in the space, try to be there. It's going to be a great event. All right. Thanks so much, Jay. See you soon.
Yeah, man. Thanks, David.
Right. Bye all.
See ya. Bye.